So this is Dr. Alan D. Thompson, and he's saying that we're going to enter the singularity sometime this year. In mid 2025, it's likely that we are already living through the early stages of the singularity, with new inventions and discoveries already being made by large language model systems in labs around the world. I'm getting a book later today by Karen Howe called Empire of AI. She has this article where she quotes a prominent AI researcher. Can you guess who it is? That person is quoted as saying, "We're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI." Who is the person that said that? It's this person right here. It's Ilya Sutskever. We'll get to that in just a second. And according to Dr. Alan Thompson, he's saying that we're 94% of the way to AGI, and we're about to start unlocking the various things in ASI, artificial superintelligence. By the way, just within the last 24 hours, Aravind Srinivas, the founder and CEO of Perplexity, tweeted, "We are talking about AGI. We should be talking about ASI." But let's dive in. So this is the memo. This is written by Dr. Alan Thompson. It's on his Substack. I'll link that down below. Or you can just search the memo by lifearchitect.ai. All right, so let's unpack some of this because there's a lot going on here. So first and foremost, Karen Howe, so she has a new book out. I've ordered it. Hopefully I will have it later today. Amazon willing. But apparently Ilya Sutskever in the days of OpenAI in 2023 was saying that they're going to need a bunker before they release AGI. Why would they need a bunker? Well, because such a powerful technology would surely become an object of intense desire for governments globally. The core scientists working on the technology would need to be protected. And of course, it's going to be optional whether you want to get into the bunker or not. And there's a number of sources that have confirmed this and were saying that there is a group of people, Ilya being one of them, who believe that building AGI will bring about a rapture. Literally a rapture. Rapture in the Christian belief is the idea that the believers will at some point disappear, or sometimes it's described as a floating up to heaven. So depending on how you want to translate that concept, it could be kind of scary because, I mean, if you think of it as kind of going to heaven, then certainly this idea of AGI bringing about a rapture is a good thing. But a different way of thinking about it is some chosen people go up to heaven and some people remain behind and, on earth, and things get really, really bad. Times of tribulations. So depending on how you want to translate that, it could be kind of scary. I'm not sure exactly what he means other than, literally a rapture. Let me know in the comments what you think he meant by that. I'm very, very curious. All right, but let's get into the meat and potatoes, the big stuff. So Microsoft Discovery AI invents a novel non-PFAS coolant. So notice here, he's saying AGI is at 94%, and there's sort of 0 out of 50 ASI sort of checklists, things that would happen that would sort of, if I understand correctly, once we were done checking off the things, that would be ASI. And here's that checklist. So I'm trying to use a dark mode plugin so that things look good. So I apologize if it looks a little bit weird, but I'm trying not to flashbang people by shifting back from light to dark. So here are the 50 things that he believes would sort of show to us that we have ASI. And notice a few of them are marked as yellow. So examples are recursive hardware self-improvement achieved, which again, I mean, if you look at something like Alpha Evolve, they used a large language model with some scaffolding, right? That's Alpha Evolve, to improve some of the AI chips, the design of the hardware that this AI runs on. So you can argue it's not a complete checkmark, but it's certainly, we're taking steps towards checking that off the list. Recursive code self-optimization achieved. There's a number of things that could kind of fit this description. Certainly, I agree that it's in yellow. First major new mathematical proof, first major mathematical conjecture resolved, first new discovery, first new physical invention, first new element added to the periodic table, and novel computing materials discovered. These are the things that are marked in yellow here, as well as first region primarily governed by AI, and the first country primarily governed by AI. And he does have this Google Sheet where he kind of goes into some detail. So I was very curious what region is primarily governed by AI. So for those, he is citing the United Arab Emirates aim to use AI to help write new legislation and revise and amend existing laws. So again, if I'm reading this correctly, so he's not saying we've checked any of these, right? So 0 out of 50 achieved. So I think the yellow signifies that we're seeing something like a prototype of this thing. We're seeing kind of the first step towards it. It's not checked off yet. So we're not saying we're there yet. We are saying things that are sort of on the way towards achieving that. For recursive hardware self-improvement, he's listing NVIDIA, as well as an article in Nature. We've covered it before, so there have been a number of breakthroughs that could kind of fall under this category. He's listing this paper from March 31st, 2025 as one of the proofs that was made by AI. I have not looked at this, so I don't know anything about this. And he's also citing this as sort of another example of this. So this is Greg Brockman from OpenAI saying O3 Mini High helped a Brookhaven National Laboratory researcher find novel exact solutions to a physical model. So this is one and the same. So it's the same paper. So we might have to take a look at this. Wei Guo Yin. We're going to have to see what this is about. If you know anything about this, link it down below. Published April 1st, 2025. That's very sus. I'm totally kidding, of course. I'm sure it's very, very real, but I will have to kind of dig into this because I've seen some of these words before, but I'm not quite sure what exactly it is that they found. So since the O3 Mini High was the model that helped to prove this, I decided to ask the O3 to explain it to me in plain English. Basic idea is if you have a long sequence of beads of various colors, this is trying to see how to arrange those in specific formations so that no two colors are together, and also having certain rules about colors that are 2 spots away. And I think the point is that AI helped spot a certain pattern, and then humans then proved it rigorously. So again, the point here is on our sort of way to ASI, he's saying here's a checklist of 50 things. We currently have 0 of them achieved, but we're making progress towards some of them. And these are the examples of things that he's saying we've made progress towards checking them off the list. One of them is an AI-run company that reaches $1 billion valuation, which is something that we've talked about before. Some people are betting, when that's going to happen. Specifically, I think they're seeing when can a one-person company that's otherwise run by AI, when it would be able to reach $1 billion valuation or reach X number of dollars in revenue, etc. But getting back to the memo, so he's saying his ASI checklist we just looked at, it continues to document the visible markers confirming humanity's progression into the singularity and superintelligence. Let me know if you agree with that. Certainly, this is one of the most comprehensive and kind of clear-cut rules that I've seen, or checklists for what's AGI or what's ASI. He has a whole other page devoted to tracking the progression of AGI. Again, that's at 94% according to his results. We're not going to dive into that, but again, I would check this out. I would check out the Substack because there's a lot of stuff here. Now, he's got both free content as well as paid content. I haven't looked at the stuff that's behind a paywall quite yet, but I might. So far, some of these ideas are very, very interesting. But the reason for this memo and kind of the updates on the ASI checklist, or at least, as he says, visible markers confirming the progression, right? He actually mentions a lot of things. So Microsoft managed to partially check number 6, which is first new discovery, number 7, first new physical invention, and number 8, first new element added to the periodic table, and number 9, novel computing materials discovered. According to Microsoft, over the past months, we have made significant strides aiding computational scientists in their research and incorporating cutting-edge innovations from Microsoft Research. This has led to remarkable breakthroughs, such as discovering a novel solid-state electrolyte candidate that uses 70% less lithium, enabling rapid computational simulations that accelerate scientific discoveries at Unilever. So it looks like Microsoft's AI screened over 32 million candidates to find a better battery. So this marks a lot of new things, new physical invention, new element, new computing material, etc. And notice also how triggers, accelerate scientific discoveries at elsewhere. This is at Unilever, a large conglomerate company. But notice this idea. So AI looks across a massive amount of data, in this case, 32 million candidates that they've tested. It helps select the more promising ones, right? And that thing now creates this little breakthrough and acceleration in research in a lot of the other companies. It has a lot of different applications. Keep that in mind as we continue reading this, because that's going to be important. The reason it's important is because this was described before, like, for example, in Max Tegmark's book, from 2017 called Life 3.0, where he sort of predicts what a world with artificial superintelligence will look like. And he's saying, like, I assume the sentence before this was kind of like, people didn't notice when it came about. But what the world did notice was an astonishing tech boom, right? Upstart companies around the world were launching revolutionary new products in almost all areas. A startup in South Korea created a new battery that stored twice as much energy as your laptop battery in half the mass. A Finnish firm released a cheap solar panel with twice the efficiency of the best competitors, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of these companies all over the place all of a sudden find how to do things a lot more efficiently, new breakthroughs. And the pace of those things just rapidly accelerate. What took decades of research and testing before is happening in months. People are launching weight loss drugs and various cancer drugs, etc. We're triggering a new gold age for science, and robotic companies are cropping up like mushrooms all around the world, disrupting the economy and replacing most of the workers in various jobs. And kind of the warning here is that one of the ASI models was flooding the world's patent offices with sensational inventions via various proxies. And these inventions gradually led to domination in all areas of technology. That's interesting because that could be happening. Imagine if places like Google or OpenAI or whoever is working on these various technologies, we saw Alpha Evolve make rapid progress in a number of different areas. It simplified code. It simplified training for Gemini. It helped improve various hardware aspects as well as Google's data centers, the Borg, like the operations. It helped streamline it. And it was already implemented at Google as of like a year ago. That was done with Gemini 2.0. So, what are they working on right now with the latest Gemini technology, Gemini 2.5 Pro, or maybe they have some newer special one that's not released to the public? Keep in mind, most of the stuff that we see, they have to kind of, I don't want to say lobotomize it, but they have to make it more usable for the masses, right? They got to make sure we don't do anything bad with it, like figure out how to come up with some chemicals and stuff like that. So it is restricted, right? The unrestricted models that they have internally, certainly I think it's safe to say that they would be better than the stuff that's sort of a little bit more restricted for the masses. I'm not talking about Google specifically. The latest Anthropic release, the latest Claude, that model triggered some of the safety warnings that they've had, right? It went up one level in their sort of safety framework. So they had to implement a lot more things to make sure that it doesn't get abused. And in their safety report, they're saying like an earlier checkpoint of this model was better or a little bit more unhinged, a little bit less safe, however they want to call it, like an earlier version. So basically you have certain saves of the model as you're fine tuning it, as you're doing reinforcement learning to get it ready for release to the public. But the earlier models, we've seen examples where they're a little bit less safe, but we've also seen examples where they might be better, more effective at stuff. So my point is that we might have somebody out there, submitting a bunch of patents for some sensational inventions via various proxies. I don't know how realistic that is. Maybe somebody that knows patent law, across the world here in the States and across the world, maybe let us know in the comments, but certainly seems like that could be very, very realistic. And here's where we get to Alpha Evolve. So the very thing that we've been kind of talking about. So this is the evolutionary coding agent powered by Google Gemini 2.0. So really quick recap. So this is kind of a diagram showing what Alpha Evolve is. So at the center of it is a large language model. In this case, they were using, for these published results, they were using Gemini 2.0. Again, one of the older models. These are the results from a year plus ago. The reason we know it's been over a year is here they've already added one of the solutions that this model came up with to the Borg, right? This is Google's vast data centers, right? This solution, now in production for over a year, continuously recovers on average 0.7% of Google's worldwide compute resources. And that might not sound like a lot, but if you think about the scale of Google, I mean, this is as they say, sustained efficiency. I mean, this is massive. You run something like this for a year, we're talking about, I don't know, millions saved, tens of millions, maybe more. And it also means that more tasks can be completed on the same computational footprint, right? So more miles per gallon, if you will. But again, I like to say, like the stars from the distant galaxies, what we're seeing now happened a long time ago. It happened in the past. So we're seeing results from over a year ago with an older model. And the other important thing to understand is that AlphaEvolve is designed as a general purpose system. So again, we plug in the large language model here, and you do have a lot of human in the loop, sort of human interactions with this model. So they provide the prompts, and also they provide how we evaluate the outputs of the model, right? We have to have a way to kind of judge how good the outputs are. And we also usually kind of seed it with the initial program with components to evolve. So we kind of said, well, this is what we figured out so far. You work on it now, right? And it runs through what they call the evolutionary code. And you can think of it as similar to how certain species survive and continue to propagate and have offspring. Some species die off, right? They go extinct. In much the same way, AlphaEvolve kind of takes the best ideas, the most promising ideas, and it kind of expands that tree, right? So promising ideas that are promising early on get to propagate, right? Kind of have offspring, and then it tests those ideas, right? And the stuff that doesn't seem like it's working, it kind of gets cut off. That's the evolutionary code. And at the end of this, we get the best program. And again, it's extremely important to understand that this is not towards one specific thing. So this isn't like AlphaGo that plays Go, the game of Go and nothing else, right? This thing improved the data centers and made it more optimized. It improved hardware for the TPUs, for the AI chips. It improved the Gemini training, how well we're able to train the AI models itself. So it's almost kind of like this self-improvement, you could say. And also improved this algorithm that we've had for like 60 years that we couldn't improve on. It found a way to shave off one step. So it made it slightly more efficient. Again, humans couldn't come up with this solution for 60 years. We couldn't improve it more than it was. We thought, oh, it's perfect, right? This thing comes in, it's like, nope, you can do it better. Here's how. Right, so AlphaEvolve is designed as a general purpose system capable of operating across a broad range of scientific and engineering tasks. It automatically modifies code and optimizes for multiple objectives, utilizing an architecture that programmatically evaluates code. So that's this evaluator code, right? So if we can evaluate something, if it's objective, if we can say, this is what we're looking for, this is how you make it better, then this could attempt it, right? And this brings the total alpha systems count to 18. And this is kind of a fascinating thing to look at because every one of these were quite notable. So AlphaGo beat the world champion at the game of Go. So Lee Sedol was the human world champion. This beat him. And AlphaGo was trained on human games, right? So the masters of the world, we showed it how they played and learned that it was able to beat the master, right? AlphaGo 0 was not trained on human data. It was doing self-play. So AlphaGo 0 was trained without using data from human games. And it was better than the previous version, right? It was not constrained by human knowledge and how we play our games. How much better was it? Well, it beats the previous model, the one that, beat the human grandmaster, the best player in the world. It beat the previous model 100 games to 0. So interestingly enough, I come online somewhere around here, right? This is where I start my channel and start like really diving deep into this stuff. So I think I covered a lot of these since then, notably Alpha Proof and Alpha Geometry. This is what nearly took the gold medal at the IMO, the International Mathematics Olympiad. They were 1 point away from getting the gold medal. And finally, we have AlphaEvolve, the results published in May 2025. But the results were from likely, early 2024, it sounds like. And finally, just very recently, we got Google VO3, right? So that's that AI video generation platform. And what's really unique about it is it's able to incorporate dialogue and sounds and music. And I mean, if you've seen the stuff that I've posted on this channel, it's getting really hard to tell what's real, what's not. It's hard sometimes. You're looking at something like, is this real? Or not, because sometimes somebody's, it's very popular on Twitter to be like, oh, here's this, AI generated thing that looks really weird, but you find out it's a real thing, it's a real person, it's just weird looking footage. But that line is getting blurred to even me that uses this stuff a lot and knows a lot about it. It's getting harder for me to tell what's AI generated, what's not. So really interesting findings. I just found out about this person today. I wish I would have known about him much earlier. So just wanted to present it to you. Seems like a phenomenal follow on Twitter, on Substack. I'll tell you what I thought about Karen Howe's book. I'm getting that later today. But I'm curious to know what you think about this 50 bullet point checklist for ASI. I always say I'm going to link it down below and I often forget, and a lot of you yell at me in the comments. So I apologize. I appreciate the reminders, but I will try to link this down below. So check it out. So this is, this is a shared Google Sheets. So you can just open it in incognito mode. You don't have to be logged into Google. And I mean, take a look at some of the stuff. A lot of this, at first glance, again, because this is the first day that I'm aware of this, a lot of this makes a lot of sense to me. Like, certainly, I feel like I would call ASI, it wouldn't even have to satisfy every single one of the 50, even at half, even at 25. I feel like most people will be like, all right, we're obviously at ASI. And some of them are sort of in stages. So, for example, 1 million fully autonomous humanoids in the workplace, and then the same in the home, and then 1 billion fully autonomous humanoids in the home. Fully autonomous cars standard, humans banned from driving. First other planet other than Earth optimized or terraformed. Crime eliminated through, as relates to mental wellness and UBI. This is interesting, and I've actually talked to a few people about this. I talked to Dylan from the Dylan Curious channel in our interview. I don't remember if that made the final cut or not, but we were talking about, could crime be eliminated? And yeah, the point that I brought up is, if we have enough UBI or some sort of like the financial thing changes to where there's not scarcity, to where most people get whatever they want, that's gonna, take a big bite out of crime. I feel like it will eliminate a big portion of crime. The other side of it is mental wellness, right? If we're able to effectively heal various mental illnesses, mental episodes. What do you think? Between the two of these, how much crime is that going to eliminate? Is it like half? Is it 99%, 99.99%? To me, it feels like this would be pretty big. He also mentions first mental health condition resolved, and Dario Amodei, in his blog post, The Machines of Loving Grace, talked about, the potential for mental health improvements. The reality is, a lot of how we feel isn't really the direct result of our sort of circumstances. A lot of it is just like stuff in our brain that we're just beginning to understand. And now our approach is to just give some drugs that may or may not work for your specific body chemistry, for your brain chemistry. Some have pretty horrible side effects. But what if we were able to kind of unlock and understand more and more of that? Is it possible that we could fix a lot of these conditions? Not only that, but just for everyone, for us to be, a little bit happier and more pleasant. Some days I try to get out there, get some sun, get some exercise, eat right. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why isn't my brain making the happy chemicals? Like, come on, do it. At some point, maybe not that far in the future, we might have something that would help with that. First and foremost, for people that are really struggling, but maybe even just kind of for the rest of us, it would be nice to just have a little bit more control over that. Anyways, I will leave links down below, and if I don't, I apologize. Feel free to yell at me in the comments, but I'll really try to remember this time. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. My name is Wes Roth, and I'll see you next time.